Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nurul Wahida Rinjani. I'm a student of Introduction to American Culture, class 2021 in English Department, Faculty of Humanities, Andalas University. So in this occasion, I'd like to deliver a presentation about learning 3 positive characters from the figure of Thomas Stearns Eliot. The next slide is points of presentation. So I will discuss about an American author named T.S. Eliot. There are 3 positive characters that we can learn from him with each point of this presentation. Namely, first, introduction. Second, the main point 1 is positive character learning 1. Next, the main point 2 is positive character learning 2. And the main point 3 is positive character learning 3, and the last is conclusion. Next slide is about introduction. Before we discuss about the positive character of T.S. Eliot, we have to know who was Thomas Stearns Eliot. Thomas Stearns Eliot, known as T.S. Eliot, was an American modernist poet, playwright, and major literary critic. He was born in St. Louis, Missouri, United States on September 26, 1888. He came from a financially blessed family. Even though T.S. Eliot comes from a rich man, that doesn't mean he is a lazy person and doesn't provide useful things. He can show various positive characters from childhood to adulthood. So, as a young generation, we can learn 3 positive characters from T.S. Eliot, such as T.S. Eliot prioritized education in his life, T.S. Eliot is critical of his work, and T.S. Eliot became the leader of the modernist movement in poetry. Next slide is the main point 1. We talk about positive character learning 1. It's T.S. Eliot prioritized education in his life. This shows that T.S. Eliot prioritized education from childhood to adulthood. For example, like T.S. Eliot started a grammar school at Smith Academy in St. Louis, high school in Massachusetts at Milton Academy, then at Harvard University with a bachelor's degree in 1906, and after that graduated from philosophy school and studied French literature at the Paris Sorbonne. In addition to gaining knowledge at school or college, he also liked to seek various life experience to broaden his horizon about literature. And as in this quote, Eliot once said, "I'm a part of all that I have met," from Simpson 1970. The meaning of the quote, T.S. Eliot can get knowledge anywhere as long as he finds it in his life. Next slide is the continue of the slide 4. Another example of T.S. Eliot's positive character in prioritizing education that he is concerned with knowledge of literature and philosophy from his childhood. This is a positive character that we should also emulate because usually young children are just busy playing and don't want to learn. So from T.S. Eliot's positive character, we as young people must realize that education is very important to be applied in our life from childhood to the end of life. Next slide, this is the main point 2 is positive character learning 2, is T.S. Eliot is critical of his works. This shows that T.S. Eliot has a very critical insight character in creating his words. The purpose of critical thinking here is human thought or reasoning in determining an action or responding to someone by analyzing facts to form research. I think critical thinking will also make it easier for us to make decisions. So we as the younger generation must learn from T.S. Eliot's positive character to be able to think critically in life. Because critical people have reasonable belief and actions when deciding what to believe or do. Next slide is the main point 3 is positive character learning 3. This is T.S. Eliot become the leader of the modernist movement in poetry. T.S. Eliot has been the first life-changing leader in the modernist movement in human failure in modernization. As in the quote, like, from this point on, modernism in English tends towards poetry from fragments that reject the idea that poets can present a coherent and entertaining view of life, from Eliot 2020. From the quote, it can be seen that T.S. Eliot has brought a positive influence as a leader in moving modernists in poetry. So we as the younger generation can learn positive character from T.S. Eliot to be able to have a leadership spirit and how to become a leader in changing something good for society. And the next slide, we talk about conclusion for the last one. So, from T.S. Eliot, an American author, represent 3 positive characters that we can learn from him as a young generation nowadays. The first positive character learning is T.S. Eliot placed great importance on education in his life. That represent T.S. Eliot went to school from childhood to adulthood and never stopped learning about many sciences. So therefore, we as the younger generation must learn from him and prioritize education today because it's very important for us. And the second positive character learning is T.S. Eliot is critical of the representation of his words that represent T.S. Eliot words are marked by critical insight nature. So we as young people have to learn to think critically while making decisions and doing things. And the last positive character learning is T.S. Eliot become the promoter of the modernist movement in poetry that represents how T.S. Eliot modified the modernist movement's perspective on human failure in modernization. So I think this is T.S. Eliot bringing a positive influence on us as young people who can have the soul of leadership for the betterment good for society. So next slide. I think that's all about my presentation. I'm so sorry for my mistaken, sir. Thank you for your attention and have a nice day. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.